Usyk to do what he's done. Would you say he's an all-time great or a generational great?
No, all-time. He earned it.
I was scratching my head like, really? This guy, 15? And he wants to win a world title before Mike Tyson did.
I love a conclusive rematch, as you know, so hopefully there's no argument.
He's throwing the uppercut. I'm going to land it. Boom.
Just knocked himself out. He's gone.
Welcome, everyone. Today we're here for the 2024 Boxing Wrapped show. We're going to be talking about the Ring Awards, the most prestigious awards in boxing. To my right over here, we've got George the St. Groves, former super middleweight world champion, now turned coach. And over here to my left, again, former super middleweight world champion, unified, also a member of the Boxing Hall of Fame. Over here, boxing is in this man's blood. It's Teddy Atlas III. And over here, he's a boxing philosopher, coached 18 world champions. 18, is that right?
Somewhere in there.
Something like that, who's counting? This man's gonna get us motivated. So today, like I said, we're talking about the nominees, we're talking about the winners. So let's get stuck in. First one, male fighter of the year. We've got Oscar Collazo, #1. Let's have a look. He's balanced there.
So important to have balance, to have your legs under you. Everyone looks at the power. Oh, he's power, he's the monster. But he's the monster and he has power because his balance is there. He's always in position. You never see him out of position.
This one I can get really excited about. Junto Nakatani. His highlight reel is unreal. It seems like Japan over the last few years are really churning out these fighters. He's had a great year this year. Let's have a look.
Interesting to see this fight start to unfold as the rounds progress.
That's a big left hook from Nakatani.
He knows how to keep you at the end of his punches. He knows how to fight tall, knows how to fight long.
But he gets them to lift their hands and shoots this backhand to the gut. It's not the kind of knockout where you're gonna think, God, it's a brutal knockout, but it's just so clever. And that's what I really like from Nakatani. Again, I think this guy's so exciting. We've got Jesse Bam Rodriguez, he's there right now.
Tremendous.
Unbelievable fighter. They call him the Legend Slayer. He had an unreal 2024. There's nothing not to like about this guy.
No, it's not. He's young. And again, he's a southpaw. We were talking about southpaws earlier. He makes adjustments during the fight, whatever he needs to do. He needs to cut the ring down. He needs to all of a sudden back off and set a trap and counter. He's dimensional. He can do it all.
Going from the little guys to the big guys, we got Daniel Dubois now. Unbelievable 2024. Ended it in unreal fashion with his win over Joshua. Let's have a look.
Let's be honest here. They thought he was done. He loses to
Joe Joyce.
Joe Joyce, right? And then he goes and loses to Usyk. Both bad losses because he broke down. He broke down mentally, you could have picked him up in a garage sale. Really, because people were like, oh no, he broke down, he gave in, he's big, he's
When you look
strong.
at the Joyce fight, though, Joyce was still
Oh no, he got
a fractured eye socket.
I know, but still.
And he kind of didn't feel right. I know what you're saying. And then it was Usyk, who obviously is Usyk.
But it's the way he
lost.
learned
from it.
It's the way he lost. And people had lost faith in him.
Yeah.
But you talk about redemption, you talk about comeback.
Yeah.
He redeemed himself.
That's the thing,
as
when
a
you're young,
person.
what was he, 24, 25 years old? He's now 27, IBF champ.
He had time.
He does this to Anthony Joshua. So he's learned from them losses,
100%.
developed.
Not
and now,
everyone does.
Now he's more dangerous. No, not everyone does, exactly.
I was lucky enough to be there ringside for that one against Joshua. He's the champion. He's been elevated with the eye, but he still ring walks first, right? Because it's the Joshua show. It's always been about Anthony Joshua. So to deal with that pressure for him and the occasion and perform the way he did, he obviously prepared diligently, prepared properly, and then from the get-go, from that first bell, goes out and executes his perfect plan. The jab's lightning fast, and then by the end of that round, Joshua hasn't shown up, and then he gets caught and gets dropped.
Let's move on to another big puncher, Artur Beterbiev.
Wow. A lot of people going into this fight, all they talked about was Bivol the boxer, and this guy is just a, destructive guy. He's the seek and destroy guy. The implication was implying that he was a caveman.
Yeah.
And nothing could be further from the truth. He boxes in a different way with pressure, but he still boxes.
He has a fantastic talent.
Yeah,
When you see him, Anthony Yard, he's a good fighter. He's got the Roy Jones-esque kind of style, and he's awkward and he's fast hands, and the way he dealt with Yard. And then for me, Callum Smith, because I spent a lot of time with Callum Smith sparring. You've obviously boxed Callum Smith. Smith's a good fighter, a top fighter. Beterbiev, the way he dismantled them, and how we're looking at him saying, you know what, he's not just a puncher, this guy. This guy's a proper fighter.
Not just a seek and destroy guy.
Real good fighter. Who wins the rematch?
I'm probably favouring Bivol.
Yeah.
Guys, let's move on to the winner now. This is the man of the moment. What he's achieved is unreal. It's Alexander Usyk. Here we go.
He's a patient man, Usyk. He's just looking for that opening. Waiting for the mistake. As we know, the big attack's coming.
Oh, left hand, a big left hand.
Still the reigning heavyweight champion of the world from Ukraine. With all the things you can point at, he's got good hand speed. He puts punches together well. You know, he's dimensional. He can fight inside. He can fight outside. He can counterpunch. He can use his legs. All of that stuff. That's not his greatest asset. His greatest asset, he knows how to win. That alone. He knows how. There's a talent to winning.
But Usyk, to do what he's done, cruiserweight, undisputed champ, Olympic champ before that,
Incredible.
and then to step up to heavyweight, beat AJ twice, beat Fury twice.
So amazing. Who do you remind you of?
Would you say he's an all-time great or a generational great?
No, all time.
All-time great.
All time. He earned it. Cus would always tell me the great ones, the special ones, they can make it up as they do it. They're in a moment, and all of a sudden they do something they've never done before. They just figure it out right there. Jimi Hendrix on the guitar. You know, he played the guitar upside down.
Sometimes how you box, Carl, isn't it?
Make it up as I go along.
Oh no, upside down.
I knew there was a reason why I went into this story. You know, just to set you guys up.
Okay, sorry.
Jordan's
keep
never a
going.
big fan of my style. That's the problem. He never really liked my style. I did everything wrong, apparently. Slow feet, slow hands.
Well, you did something right.
Exactly. Yeah, you tell him.
I'm waiting to tell me what it is.
I can think of someone else, another fighter who does some things right. We'll move on to the next category. We've got Female Fighter of the Year. First off, we've got Katie Taylor.
I mean, in some ways, the queen of female boxing. She won a gold medal in the Olympics. She's won world titles in different weight classes.
She's a pioneer. She's a pioneer.
She really
I mean,
is.
I remember when women's boxing wasn't even in the Olympics. She was the one who had to go and box in front of a load of judges who would decide whether women's boxing deserved to be in the Olympics. So can you imagine the amount of pressure that was on her shoulders? Last year was as always, for her, a phenomenal year. She had those epic fights with Serrano. We'll move on to the next one. Clarissa Shields, here we go.
I called her first fights in the Olympics. She was 16 years old. I was calling the Olympics for NBC. They were asking me to break down how I thought the boxing team, they meant the men's boxing team, was going to do. And I said, I don't think they're going to do too good. I think the only chance we're going to win a medal, a gold medal, is from the women's. They were like, really? I said, yeah. There's this girl called Clarissa Shields. I think she's going to win the gold, 16 years old. And I believe it was the first time they had women's boxing in the Olympics.
It was 2012.
Yeah, and she made me look good.
She doubled down on it. Two-time Olympic gold medalist.
And she went through tough things in her upbringing, her background. I mean, it's an amazing story. And that speaks to why mentally she was so strong and so together.
We'll jump into the next one. It's Amanda Serrano. We mentioned her earlier when talking about Katie. Obviously now these two are going to be entwined. When you mention one, you're probably going to mention the other. But Amanda is unreal. She's moved up and down the weight divisions and she's just got that all-action style. And I think it's kind of sad for her that she doesn't get to fight 12 three-minute rounds because her style would really suit that.
Yeah, she just keeps going. She's got an engine, right? I
think we needed the 3-minute rounds of Serrano Taylor because it was getting going and it was like they can't keep this work rate up, especially Katie Taylor because she doesn't stop throwing. But over 3 minutes, it's not humanly possible to work for 3-minute rounds flat out. Do you know what I'm saying? If you had that extra minute, it just separates the elite level fighters. That's why I like boxing when it was 15 rounds, not 12 rounds.
A favourite of mine, we've got Michaela Mayer. Such a good representative for women's boxing. She knows how to sell a fight. She knows how to make a rivalry, and she's been involved in some great fights. Here we're watching her against Ryan. For me, Mayer's another one of those fighters who would really benefit from the longer rounds and from more rounds because she would be able to set up those traps and her experience would really come into play. Another Olympian there.
So it's different for women because they don't have the time to set the shots up. But someone like Maya would probably, as you say, be suited more for a 3-minute round where she can set up her good work.
Let's jump into our next one. We've got Sinisa Estrada. She's recently retired. I think she's only 33. Achieved so much in the sport already. Really entertaining fighter. She's got a great balance of kind of being an aggressive fighter who's ready to get stuck in, but equally very technical.
My mentor, Cus D'Amato, I thought that was the most brilliant boxing mind of all time. But of course, I have a bias towards him. He would always say, It's a prerequisite to be tough in boxing. I mean, if you're not tough, go to opera. You know what I mean? Like go so. If you're gonna go in boxing, that should be automatic. There should be an inherent toughness involved. You got two tough guys, and one is smarter. He becomes twice as tough. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the fighters where they separate themselves in the cerebral way.
Yeah, Estrada's a great example of that. Now, we're going to move on to the winner, and I think it's a really worthy winner. It's Gabriela Fundora. Now, this fighter, only 22 years old. I think the reason they've decided, yeah, it's going to be Fundora is she's now broken the record. She's the youngest undisputed world champion, female world champion. So many assets. She's got those long levers. I always think when I watch Fundora, she reminds me, you're going to maybe think I'm mad for saying this, but she reminds me of a Tommy Hearns because she towers over her opponents. Such long levers, but instead of boxing on the back foot, sticking her opponents on the end of her long arms, she pushes forward and she's very aggressive. And she's constantly looking for the finish, which is refreshing to see in women's boxing and in the lighter weights. So exciting to watch.
I was about to say that. She actually KOs people.
She stops them.
You know who she reminds me of, though?
Go on.
Her brother.
Yeah, yeah.
Really, it's a family affair. Her brother, of course, is world champion now. He beat Zhu with that fight where there was a lot of bleeding and everything going on. But tall, long.
Yeah.
You know, you want to keep somebody at the end of your punches, which her brother didn't always do that well, to be honest. That's why he got knocked out the one time. But he did it better against Zhu when he won. You can see the sister knows how to fight tall.
I like the Tommy Hearns analogy, though, the comparison, because sort of looping the shots in at range and generating that power from long range, they're the dangerous punches.
Except
she does that so
southpaw.
well.
Hers, of course, was orthodox. But yeah, you can't go wrong with the analogy in comparison to Hearns.
A worthy winner there. I mean, I think what we're seeing with Fundora is she's one of the first young female fighters we're seeing that grew up watching female fighters. She talks about watching her mum compete, and I just think...
Such a good point. It's a family affair. It's in the blood.
We've got prospect of the year, so who do we think is really going to make a splash, make big moves in 2025? We're going to go through the nominees. We've got Daniel Pero, we've got John Orobio, we've got Yeleni Hernandez, we've got Emiliano Vargas, Abdullah Mason, and the winner, and I don't think any of us are going to be too surprised by this one, Moses Atuma. So guys, let's have a chat.
And he's so young, you know, I mean, he just turned 20. The old timers used to say to me, he hit you on top of the head and fractured your ankles. You know what I mean? You don't have to say more after that. I mean, that's just real power. I always have a saying, I used to always say it on ESPN, that punches are born, they're not made. And he was born with that kind of power. You don't teach that in the gym. Yeah, you add to your power with timing and technique and all of that, but either you have that kind of power because you're born with it or you don't.
Yep.
And he was born with that kind of power.
He's an incredible talent, and the amount of maturity I think he shows. The first time I heard about him, he was sparring Lawrence Okoli, who's, you know, monstrous puncher at cruiserweight. He was 15 years of age, travelling down there in his school uniform and giving him problems. Like, if he was the toughest sparring partner they could find for him.
Incredible.
And I was scratching my head, like, really? This guy, 15, is that good? And then obviously seeing him since, hearing about him pressing, he wants to win a world title before Mike Tyson did. And you're like, yeah, okay, that seems like that's a record that's going to last forever.
Still, how much time you got?
Got about 140 days to do it.
Really?
Very specific.
Yeah.
I went right to my stat man. You see that? I knew where to go.
How many hours? How many hours on top of that?
At 19 years old, I was just worried about going to college and going to class and passing some tests. And to show the composure on that stage as a co-feature to Usyk and Fury, and then go out there and take a guy, Dempsey McKean, who's only beat once before, and he went 12 rounds versus the #1 rated heavyweight at the time in Hrgovic. Extremely impressive.
I'm going to use a strong word here. It's a simple word, but that's genius. That's genius. That's the look of genius that you're seeing, you know, whether you're talking about a Mozart or you're talking about, you know, a Jimi Hendrix or you're talking about, you know, a Louis Armstrong on a horn. At a young age, you see it, you hear it, you say, that's genius.
I think in a physical sport like boxing now, human beings can develop quicker. Like, if you go to football, Wayne Rooney was like 15 years old, hairy chest, knocking goals in the back of the net for fun. To change the sport.
Yeah.
So he's a young man, but he's very developed, big puncher, got that mind, but still, like you say, you said genius. I'll give you that one.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Regardless of whether he does beat that record or not, phenomenal prospect. I think definitely a worthy winner. Let's move on to the next category. Guys, we've got Fight of the Year. Now, this one's a big one. This one was one of my favourite fights of the year. I was on the edge of my seat, and it's Wardley Clark 1. Let's have a look. Now, I mean, I remember watching this fight, and from the get-go to the end, I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. And I remember before the fight, I edged Clark just because I thought his boxing ability and also Wardley's lack of amateur pedigree. I thought Clark would just nick it. But, I mean, a draw, as much as it was hard to swallow, you never want to see a draw. I think it kind of made sense. And I couldn't believe how great the fight was.
Yeah, it was a really, really good fight. I was fortunate enough to be ringside for that one. And I think the same, I picked Clark to edge out Wardley. You think of experience, he's travelled the world as an amateur, but maybe spent a little bit too long as an amateur to play for in the end.
Sitting ringside on the night?
To be honest, Carl, I can't quite remember, but I knew it was tight.
Watching it on the television, I had Clark winning in a close one, and I thought Wardley did really well. So he got no amateur experience, comes from the white collar, but he was firing, wasn't he, letting shots go, and it was a British title fight, good old-fashioned, passionate British title, and it ebbed and flowed, but it was toe-to-toe pretty much for 12 rounds. For the heavyweights, that was a real treat for the fans present on the night.
I like you guys, your accents, I like the words you use. I'm going to say, I thought he edged them.
Well, he edged it a little bit. Just edged it, yeah.
I mean, it really was a phenomenal fight. But let's move on to the next one. We've got Martinez and Ioka. Let's have a look.
Yeah, another great fight, another contender.
Hey, that old saying, ebbs and flows. I mean, you get ebbs and flows. Usually you have a candidate for a good fight.
OK, next one we'll move on. It's Ortiz and Boachuk. Now, this one was one of my favourites of the year, personally. What did we think? Ortiz and Boachuk.
Firefight from the beginning, from the opening bell to the ending bell. No relenting, no backing up, back and forth in their chest. I think they threw almost 2,000 punches combined. This, for me, unbelievable fight. It's hard to think of more fights or better fights than this one.
I mean, this one surely must have been a tight pick between this and the winner.
I concur. That's a word we use back in the States,
I know that one.
Instead, you got that one, right? Instead of the edging. But I call it a phone booth fight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And as a fan, they're great fights. As
just
a fight fan.
in close and, no formal introductions. Okay, ding, they go at it.
Yeah. And nobody's holding, nobody's spoiling. They're giving themselves room to get the shots off. See tight guard up close,
true.
looking for the openings.
Yeah, no clutching, no
the referee's
grabbing.
not having to do much.
No, and that's always good when the referee doesn't have to be involved.
He'll go headlock there.
Yeah.
You like headlock, don't you, George?
Yeah.
When you're in trouble.
I'm the one, you're the one who holds on for
no
dear
sparring
life,
today, guys, no sparring.
Hang on, what are we talking about? Hold on.
Had me in more headlocks. So you and the referee usually have me in a headlock.
Right, we'll take that chance to move on to the next fight. We've got Bivol. Phenomenal fight, but for a very different reason to the other ones. So, guys, tell me what you think about that one.
Boxing purist fight.
Yeah,
I mean, that's someone who has to understand the sport and appreciate the art of pugilism. And know what's going off. It was edge of your seat stuff, but not because you're thinking someone's going to get knocked out in any minute. Even though Beterbiev's a monster puncher, it was the class, it was the feints, the setting up. You couldn't split them. I'm not even sure if the right man won. Did you have the right man winning that night?
I thought it was close. I think you never like to score at a draw. It could have gone either way.
Yeah. You say you don't like to score a draw. I think a draw would have been a fair and probably a better decision because we've got the rematch.
I don't think so. I thought Beterbiev won it.
You thought he won it,
I thought he won it in the championship rounds. We love to talk about championship rounds.
The last three, 4 rounds, yeah. Should nicking them last 2 or 3 rounds make you the winner?
If you've
lost the first 6, 7, 8 rounds.
I didn't think he lost.
No, he didn't lose. There was some close ones.
Teddy, from your part of the world, where you score a fight, the guy who's pressing and moving forward, does he win the round if it's close or not?
Only if it's effective aggression.
Yeah.
And last impressions matter. I thought the last 30 seconds of each round, Beterbiev coming on, Beterbiev pressing. When he hears the 10-second clapper, he's trying to steal that close round away. I thought he edged it out by doing that.
Yeah, let's just hope the rematch is more conclusive. I love a conclusive rematch, as you know, so hopefully there's no argument.
OK, I'll take that as another excuse.
No arguments, move on.
I'll take that as another excuse to move on. Right, next one, it's Fury and Usyk #1. Guys, let's dive in.
What do you think of that there, where the ref intervened and he's on the ropes? Should the ref let him carry on punching, or do you think that was fair?
No, I'm going to tell you that's a good point. I think it's more on Usyk being a gentleman.
Yeah, exactly.
Really?
Fair play, yeah. Proper like warrior spirit, code of honour. I'm going to stop punching because I would have carried on punching it.
Yeah.
I'm not in a horrible way.
Yeah.
Because the guy's on his way out. The ref's not quite in the way.
Well, you're not as much a gentleman as him.
3-4 shots.
But I understand.
Send them in.
You're right.
Go for the
Protect
finish.
yourself at all times.
Yeah, until the referee's got hold of you and pulling you off.
I would have, if I'm Usyk at that point, I think the referee stopped the fight. The referee's gone like that. I would have walked away with my arms in the air.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
I would have turned around and been disappointed.
That's a fair point.
Count.
But he definitely held up. He knew he could have hit him.
Yeah,
and
he stopped.
He stopped.
When I stopped Lucian Butte, I don't like talking about myself that much, but when I stopped Lucian Butte on the ropes, the ref was trying to get involved, and I'm like, well, the ref hasn't stopped it yet, so I'm still sending shots in, and then the ref jumps in and does that, like across his arm. He doesn't wave it off, he crosses his arms, and then he starts administering an 8 count. Because he's sitting on the rope.
In your mind, it's over.
I've ran and jumped on the top rope and started celebrating. And that fight with Usyk and Fury, that then went another 9 minutes. There was 3 more rounds.
We could talk about that fight all day, but we need to talk about the winner as Ford Kolmatov. Now, this fight was epic, definitely a worthy winner. Let's have a look.
I mean, there was real drama here, because Ford is behind going into the last round. He's behind on all scorecards. He can only win one way, the way he won, by knockout.
Is it wrong if I say I've been there and talk about myself again? But I just want to chuck in. Froch Jermaine Taylor, my first world title defence, I had to get the stoppage in round 12. And I've been dropped for the first time in my career in round 3. So when I watched this fight, I was like, he's got to pull this off in the last round. And I know how that feels. It's difficult to not smother your work, to not overreach, to not leave your chin in the air when you're trying to load up. But quality performance that was from Ford.
Not to get over anxious when you are anxious.
Yeah.
Because you know you need the knockout.
Yeah, but
it's still the state of your form.
Yeah, to keep
your technique.
Yeah, to keep that composure. It's difficult.
Yeah, we talk about overcoming. I mean, he's cut. He's getting it pretty good himself here, Ford, and pulling it out of the fire. We have less than 10 seconds left before he does it, versus a guy who's never been knocked down, let alone knocked out before, an undefeated guy at the time.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm definitely going to be going back to watch that fight. We're going to move on to the next category. We've got knockout of the year now. We've got Lucas Bardi over Ashton H. Sylph. Let's have a look.
Good right from Bardi. And another one.
That's a knockout.
That's a sleeper.
How cold.
The thing for me is it's more than one punch, though. See, for me, I'm looking for one punch that puts the lights out.
I think the first punch put him out, but you got the left hook on the way down as well. I know what you're saying.
Yeah. But it was still there,
No, exactly, it was still there.
I'm looking for, we're in the studio. I don't want any flickering lights.
Yeah.
I want just blackout.
I think that's up there, knockout of the year. It's got to be.
It's got to be.
When you're worried for their safety before they've hit the floor, that's usually a good knockout.
OK, next up, we've got Angelo Leo over Venado Lopez. Let's have a look.
The second round.
Oof.
All right, there's no flickering lights.
No.
That's it. It's like you would say in this business, that's a wrap.
And that was a counter left hook as well, wasn't it? Counter left hook. So
Oh, beautiful. I always say that whenever there's a knockout, there's a flaw.
you see the lazy jab?
Yeah, a lazy jab. There you go. A lazy jab. And one other thing, waiting for a receipt. Taking a picture. He stands there after he throws the jab.
Yeah.
You got to move after your last punch.
And you talk about timing equating to power. I mean, it almost felt like it was a check hook. He didn't even fully turn it over.
Next up, we've got Bruno Saras over Jaime Munguia. Let's have a look.
It's like Munguia took a round off and then came back and finished him.
Oh,
my goodness! Munguia goes down in round 6!
Oof.
Timing, single right hand, one shot. He's trying to get up, but, his legs aren't cooperating.
I mean, he got to his feet. Does that mean that it wasn't quite as bad as the previous two?
Yeah, I would.
But it was a shocker, wasn't it?
It was a shocker for
Huge
sure.
upset. Huge upset. Sarachi only had 4 knockouts.
Not a big knockout, man. They talk about timing earlier.
Does the guy see it? He never saw it. He timed them beautifully. And even though he's only had 4 knockouts in his career, now he's got 5.
You see what Munguia did wrong as well? Because he had Bruno on his back foot on the ropes. He'd done his work. Then he sat back and tried to admire it. Left hand low. never been KO'd before, and then cops that right hand on the chin, lights out. I mean,
and he does it in Munguia's backyard. I mean, for a guy who's never traveled, now he's traveling to this guy's country. Pretty impressive. And the last thing too, let's not forget, Saras was on the canvas in the second round. He picks himself up, composes himself, and then delivers that in the sixth.
Yes. Next up, we've got Gervonta Tank Davis over Frank Martin. Let's have a look.
Left to the body.
Oh, left uppercut.
But he's very patient, and he starts off fights and very selective with his punches. He doesn't he's just let his hands go.
He's got that mindset, though, hasn't he? It's that Baltimore upbringing. He's in there and he means business.
I remember a quote of Sugar Ray Robinson where he said, "I have to dress him up before I take him out." And that was a great example of Martin dressing him up before he took him out. Yeah.
Right, guys, let's jump into the winner, the one we've all been waiting for. This is a knockout over Daniel Dynamite, as he should be called, Dubois, over Anthony Joshua. At this point, I think we was all on the edge of our seats, weren't we?
100%, because it's a huge upset in the making.
But he catches Dubois there,
That's
and it looks like, has he stiffened his legs?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's starting to turn the tide. You think he's going to get him, and then boom.
But a go-to punch for Joshua throughout his career, which everyone's made note of at the time, is that right uppercut. It's a risky shot. A lot of the time.
It's beyond it. You don't throw it from that far away.
Unless you named Prince Nassim Hamed. He used to throw it from that range, but he was a featherweight.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm going to give him credit for something that he deserves credit for. He threw it. Yeah, he was awkward. He was unorthodox, and he had power. No doubt about it. He threw punches from angles you didn't see coming. But he saw the guy's feet. He saw when he wasn't set.
Yeah.
So he knew when he was throwing him that the guy wasn't set. Even though you shouldn't know, he was making wrong right.
Yeah.
Not too many. Muhammad Ali could do that. Roy Jones Jr. could do that. They made wrong right.
AJ was in a desperate position there, though, and I think he was taking a gamble, and his coach did say roll the dice. But he'd been dropped in round one, which we didn't see. Then he got dropped again, and the referee was like, no knockdown, because the feet got tangled. But he was already in a bad place. That was round 5. And by that point, when Dubois was backing him up, and he got caught himself, didn't he, Dubois? He got caught with a little shot, put off balance, but he was still poised and ready, and he looked like he recovered 100%. From a little tap on the chin. One right hand landed, and then the second one, as AJ threw that lazy uppercut from out of range,
but it was
just a sitting duck, and Dubois can punch hard, and as you saw there, when it detonated, the dynamite Dubois on his chin, it was game over, wasn't it?
I guarantee you, if you asked what the last thing he saw was, he was throwing the uppercut. In his mind, he sees the guy's chin, he's throwing the uppercut, I'm going to land it, boom.
He just knocked himself out. He's gone.
We're going to jump into the last one. Lifetime Achievement Award. Now, this one's interesting. No nominees, just one man, Don King. We've got some clips here.
Look at the fights that he's been involved in. Look at the fights that he's made. Foreman and Ali and Zaire. Just a historic, iconic fight. The drill in Manila. No sport's been around longer than this sport. None. Maybe those guys who run the marathon. Maybe. But boxing has been around longer than any other. This guy has been involved in so many of the fights that will stand the test of time.
And he's known by everybody in every country as well. In Britain, he's massive as well. Even now, people know the name Don King.
Well, if you had hair like that, you'd be known outside of here.
I've got a couple of greys coming through.
No, you look great. You guys,
you best believe it.
There's not many promoters that can become a face. It's meant to be the fighter. It's very rarely you see a promoter.
He always used to leave the ring, didn't he, with the winner? Because in England, he used to get him with the American flag and the British flag. And whoever won, the other one would go in his pocket. That was a promotional tactic.
Yeah, he knew what he was doing. You want another story? Do you want another story?
Go on, before we finish.
Okay. He goes when Joe Frazier... And Joe Frazier, of course, had beaten Ali, and, he's the undefeated heavyweight champion of the world, and he's fighting Big George Foreman. And Foreman, no one knew yet. He was Olympic gold medalist. He knocked everybody out, a lot of guys out, but no top guys. So nobody knew, could he handle smoking Joe Frazier? And then, of course, he does. He destroys him. Hey, Don, how's it feel? Now the other guy won the title. He goes, I came to the arena, which he did. He came in a limousine with Joe Frazier. I came to the arena with the champ, I'm leaving the arena with the champ. He left in a car with Foreman.
Yeah, there you have it.
So,
I mean, he definitely deserves it. No one's had a career like him. So that's us done for today. I've had loads of fun looking at those amazing fights and those unbelievable fighters. I want to thank the Ring magazine. I'm so glad it's back, as I'm sure everyone else is. Carl, thanks for coming. George, Teddy, it's been great. Join us when we do our next show. That's the Ring 2024 Wrapped. I've been Ruth.